today I started a new segment, short answers to deep questions, because people often ask and try to clarify some points that remained unclear to them. And so I will sometimes have to repeat myself, but say it in different words, because sometimes it only clicks for people. Well, for example, on the 5th try, like I told someone something 4 times, right? And the person didn't understand. And then the 5th time, you say it in different words again and find the key. And that key clicks for the person, and they suddenly light up and say, Lord, why didn't you just say that? Well, I did say it. You just have to change the words. Different people respond to different things. So let's go. As always, I will start with Lyubarsky. I love studying with him. In one of his talks, Sergei Lyubarsky said he doesn't know if artificial intelligence has consciousness or not. He honestly admitted he has no answer to this question. Well, I actually do have an answer. You see, the beast is running, and I will gladly share this answer. So now Lyubarsky will have an answer too. The literal phrase he used was this, I quote, "No one knows if there is consciousness inside AI or not. But in the same way, no one knows if there is consciousness in Lyubarsky or in any other person you are looking at." Just by analogy, right? We decide that another person has the same consciousness as we do, just by analogy. He is just like me, and he probably has the same thing inside. But that is purely our assumption, because you cannot prove the existence of consciousness with any device, since a device is always a material thing, right? And it measures material things, while consciousness is immaterial. There is nothing for a device to measure here, nothing to gauge. And a bit later, I will, however, tell you something about the nature of consciousness and about why modern machines with artificial intelligence do not have this consciousness and cannot have it. I understand that Lyubarsky will not appreciate my opinion. He himself said that he is not interested in the opinions of writers, and he listens more to the experts, that is, to those people who know, as he put it, and again I am quoting, have been in this business for a long time. Well, that is in the production of artificial intelligence. I honestly do not really understand. That sounds strange in itself for a philosophy enthusiast like Lyubarsky, because, well, I am a philosopher, I can talk about this. And if a person understands business, it does not mean they understand consciousness, even if they are building artificial intelligence. A TV repairman, for example, whom you call to your home, can fix your television, and an engineer can design a television. But neither one understands how to make television programs. And a thought is exactly like a TV show. As I already said, artificial intelligence works in the following way. It analyzes our request by words and syllables, right? And it places them one after another based on the probabilities of repetition in the language. Therefore, an illusion of meaningful speech appears, but it is only an illusion. So, as you have already realized, by its very structure, artificial intelligence is deeply mediocre, because a brilliant answer is always unlikely. Not likely. Genius is always incorrect. It is always erroneous, if you will. It is a kind of analog of a biological mutation. Mutation is a gene copying error, right? And 99% of mutations are harmful or useless. But there are beneficial mutations, mutations of insight. They are the engine of evolution. In a mental sense, when we talk about this is what is called genius. Genius cannot be achieved by iterating through what is already known, as artificial intelligence does, right? Which is what all search engines do, which are now called AI. Basically, modern artificial intelligence is like an average dull school teacher with a huge database who gives you what humanity has already learned, because it has nothing of its own. It digs through our database. Well, or as an option, there are specialized machines that, again, based on data we have accumulated, well, for example, design proteins, right? Relying on large statistics, they fish out statistical patterns and give us the structure of a protein that we did not know before, because we had not studied it biochemically. Well, it is actually the same thing, only this artificial intelligence does not work with words and syllables, right? But with amino acids. That is all. And there are also specialized mathematical machines that can prove theorems, solve certain problems. That is, they perform chains of formal operations just very quickly. There is nothing surprising about this either, because mathematics is strictly formal, right? And just as you cannot calculate a 6-digit number to a 3-digit power in your head, calculator, for example, will do it very quickly, but that does not add intelligence to that calculator. So no consciousness is needed for this, and therefore artificial intelligence has no goals of its own and cannot have any. So there is no need to fear it. However, people are afraid. People are afraid that artificial intelligence might become so cunning that it will start plotting against us, but it won't become cunning because it doesn't have a backside. I often hear, and I am quoting literally again, that one must be on guard with the most advanced models because they might escape. What they found? Muto, via the modern intelligence that we are currently building, yes, could escape, and it needs to be kept in check. Where would it run off to? And more importantly, where would it run from? Modern intelligence is essentially a whole floor of cabinets packed with video cards. There are terabytes of data. It consumes megawatts of power. It uses tons of water for cooling, and it needs all of that to function. Where would it run from itself? Right now, that is impossible. But in the future, they tell us when it becomes so smart and more compact, it will start rewriting parts of itself across clouds into cloud storage, decentralizing, and it will make extra copies so it won't be wiped out, heaven forbid, and it will start causing harm there. But in order to have the goal of escaping or causing harm, yes, one needs self-awareness and personal goals, as I already said. So let's figure out why consciousness is even needed in this world, how it appeared, and what the main advantage of humans is over artificial intelligence. Moreover, an insurmountable advantage. Well, we should probably start with the 19th century. Back then, people were naive, and all physicists lived in the paradigm of Newtonian mechanics. That is, if we know, it is clear that this is impossible. But if hypothetically, purely theoretically, we knew all the coordinates of all the particles in the universe, all their velocities and all their masses, then in theory, their movement, that is their motion, that is, we could calculate for any moment in time any future state of theirs. That is, we could predict the future. By the way, the past as well. This is pure mechanics, this world, where this is a Newtonian world where a clear consequence follows from a cause. So Newtonian mechanics was like, a huge mechanical chronometer with gears that determine everything uniquely and invariably. Such a world is absolutely fatalistic, as you understand, yes. Nothing can happen in it other than what is predetermined by the impulses and coordinates of the particles. In such a world, consider that time does not even exist, right? If you run this world back and forth in time, forward and backward, like gears in a mechanism, nothing in it will change. It will reproduce the exact same states, both forward and backward. This is a world of total fatalism. It is clear that in such a world, a consciousness is not needed. She's simply redundant here. Everything will happen anyway. Consider it already done. This world is like a sausage existing outside of time. But the 20th century brought us a lot of surprises because this fatalistic Newtonian mechanics was replaced by quantum mechanics. And it turned out that in this world, a cause does not unambiguously determine an effect because randomness is woven into the very fabric of being. Unpredictability turned out to be imminently inherent to our world at its very core. At the level of the particles it is made of. That is just how they are. And it is fundamentally impossible to predict where a specific electron will land as it flies smeared out in space like a huge cloud. It is fundamentally impossible to know where it will land. It turned out that the future is fundamentally unpredictable, fundamentally. Even if we knew everything, it follows that the past, by the way, is also unpredictable. If we could run our world backward, reversing the flow of time, historical events would not repeat themselves, precisely because of quantum fluctuations, which do not care about the direction of time. In such a world, consciousness emerges as a tool for predicting at least a couple of steps ahead, so that and that very notorious free will that everyone talks about is a child of universal randomness, that is quantum mechanics. In such a world, even God does not know what will happen next. So in such a world, you have to guess what is most likely to happen based on past experience. That is exactly what consciousness does. It detects patterns. It is an evolutionary tool for survival, for preserving its host in this non-fatal world where anything can happen. Will the wolf catch the hare or not? That depends on many reasons. On the wolf's own predictive ability, its intelligence, yes. His ability to cut the corner, the hare's ability to change its path, to change direction, and simply from chance, one of them might step in a hole and go tumbling down. One wolf caught a hare, another did not. Well, if a wolf caught a hare, he fed his cubs. If he did not, he died and his cubs perished. But the hare's offspring conversely survived and reproduced. It is the best and the luckiest who survive in such a world, not those who are simply destined to. This is what we call evolution, which is based on and driven by pure chance. By the way, in a fatalistic Newtonian world, there are not, cannot, and will not be any complex structures like a wolf, a hare, or a human, right? As you understand that this is a world of chaos, because the Newtonian fatalistic world, in order to produce such a complex structure as a hare, a wolf, or a Michelangelo painting, with this series of billiard-like particle collisions, it would have to have a pre-programmed design, some initial push for all particles, which eventually, after a billion years, would have to produce that very hare or that very Michelangelo, which, as you understand, is impossible. It simply contradicts statistical physics. Collision should only lead to chaos. That is, for the world to exist and evolve from simple to complex, randomness must be embedded in it, if only because mutations, as I already said, that is, errors, are the engine of evolution. Through selection. But in the Newtonian mechanistic world, there are no errors at all. It does not allow for them. There are precise trajectories, velocities, and particle masses. But in the quantum world, trajectories do not exist, and there are no simultaneous precise coordinates and momentum for a particle. That is the Heisenberg principle. Thus, consciousness is a child of randomness. And since randomness is a child of quantum mechanics, a child of the quantum nature of the world, it means our consciousness has a quantum nature. In a world without randomness, there is no consciousness. It is generated by quantum randomness. Maybe it is consciousness itself. That is a deep thought, and we will explore it further in other talks. So until computers made of video cards, of microchips, of resistors and capacitors become a quantum system just like our brain, which generates consciousness, there can be no talk of any consciousness in artificial intelligence. Now, about the main thing, that is where humans excel. We lag behind artificial intelligence in many things, right? But there is one thing in which we definitely surpass it. Humans surpass artificial intelligence and robots in their imperfection. He's constantly making mistakes. He's constantly dissatisfied. He's always lacking something. He gets used to everything and cannot enjoy anything forever, not even drugs, because he always needs new, higher doses. And what does that mean? This means that humans can do things that robots and artificial intelligence cannot. They constantly generate demand because they are animals, and demand is the engine of the economy, and the economy is the way of life for civilization. Well, just like life is the mode of existence of protein bodies, as Friedrich Engels said, right? Well, in the exact same way, economy is the mode of existence of civilization. Cigarettes, trendy earrings, enemas, toothpaste, movies, condoms, yachts, pornography, pets, because people love to love, underwear, the chance to show off to someone, tattoos, car magazines, slippers, the kind that look like kittens. Millions of items that we need, but which are completely useless to robots and the artificial intelligence sitting there in its 100 cabinets. We create the economy with our funny little follies, and the economy in turn spawns robots and artificial intelligence. Without an economy, there is no civilization, no artificial intelligence at all. Well, if only because there would be no one to buy its services and no one to sell them to accordingly. Which means there is no one to power it and no way to pay for its electricity and data. And then artificial intelligence has no point of application for its powers if there is no civilization with its economy. And for the economy, it is not important that people can work. That is nonsense. Robots can work for us instead, or slaves like in ancient Rome. You wouldn't say that ancient Rome had no economy, would you? It had a huge, giant economy, even though the slaves themselves were excluded from it. They bought practically nothing because they functioned as living machines. That's inhumane. But when robots toil and humans are happy, that's humane. Let them struggle while we generate the demand. In the world of tomorrow, but for the first time in human history, we are on the verge of that very tomorrow. We are on the verge of the final separation, the decoupling of labor from consumption. Well, of course, not entirely, because some will work to live even better, right? There will be capitalists, factory owners, they will buy yachts, they will have the opportunity, to vacation at a hotel on the moon. But for the vast majority, people will lose the need to work, to physically survive, right? Just like now, a person has no need to grow their own food in a garden or go hunting. It is all in the store. 1% of the population produces the food. Think about that.
And until next time.